I told you a man walked onto a plane, collected $200,000 in ransom, and then simply vanished? No body, no arrest, no answers. For over 50 years, this mystery has haunted investigators, spawned countless theories, and turned one man into an American legend. His name wasn't even real, but you know it anyway, D.B. Cooper. Today, we're going back to November 24th, 1971. The night a man in a cheap suit outsmarted the FBI, hijacked a Boeing 727, and disappeared into the frozen darkness over the Pacific Northwest, never to be seen again. To understand how Cooper pulled this off, you need to understand 1971. There were no metal detectors, no ID checks, no security screenings. You could walk into an airport, buy a ticket with cash at the counter, and board a plane within minutes. You could bring knives, lighters, even explosives. The late 1960s and early 1970s were called the golden age of hijacking. In 1971 alone, there were 15 hijackings in the United States. The skies were lawless, and Cooper was about to exploit every single weakness in the system. But here's what made him different from every other hijacker. Cooper didn't want to go to Cuba. He didn't have political demands. He wanted something far simpler: cash and a parachute. Thanksgiving Eve, Portland International Airport. A man in his mid-40s approaches the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. Dark suit, white shirt, black clip-on tie. He pays cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle, a 30-minute flight. The name on the ticket? Dan Cooper. At 2:50 p.m., Flight 305 takes off with 36 passengers and a crew of 6. Cooper takes seat 18E, the very last row. He orders a bourbon and 7-Up, lights a cigarette. Then he does something unexpected. He passes a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She assumes it's his phone number, just another lonely businessman. She drops it into her purse without reading it, but then Cooper leans in close and whispers 5 words that change everything. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Schaffner sits down next to Cooper as instructed. When she asks to see the bomb, he calmly opens his briefcase. Inside, 8 red cylinders arranged in 2 rows. Wires, a large battery. It looks exactly like dynamite. Cooper's demands are clear: $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, a fuel truck ready when they land in Seattle. "All I have to do is attach this wire to this gadget here," he tells her, "and we'll all be dead." What strikes Schaffner most isn't the threat, it's his demeanor. Cooper isn't nervous. He isn't sweating. He's polite, methodical, almost bored. He even offers her a cigarette while they wait. For the next 2 hours, Flight 305 circles Puget Sound while the FBI scrambles to meet his demands. And Cooper? He just sits there, waiting, like he's done this 1,000 times before. At 5:45 p.m., more than 2 hours behind schedule, Flight 305 touches down at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. Snipers watch from the terminal. FBI agents surround the plane. But Cooper has thought of everything. He demands all window blinds be closed. Only one airline employee may approach. Flight attendant Tina Mucklow collects the ransom: $200,000 in $20 bills, each serial number photographed by the FBI. Then, 4 parachutes. Once everything is aboard, Cooper releases the passengers. 36 people walk off that plane with no idea how close they came to disaster. Now it's just Cooper, Mucklow, and the flight crew. His next instruction? Fly to Mexico City. But the conditions he specifies reveal something crucial about who he really is. Maintain 10,000 feet altitude, keep the landing gear down, set the wing flaps at 15 degrees, and keep the rear air stair open during flight. Cooper didn't just know planes, he knew this plane. The Boeing 727 was one of the only commercial jets in the world where someone could actually do what he was about to do. At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 takes off again. Destination: Reno, Nevada. Only 5 people remain on board. Cooper instructs Mucklow to return to the cockpit and close the door. She's the last person to see him, standing in the aisle, strapping on his parachute, tying the money bag around his waist. "Please," she begs him, "take the bomb with you." "I will," he says, and then she's gone. At 8 p.m., a warning light flashes in the cockpit. The rear air stair has been deployed. The crew's ears pop from the sudden pressure change. At 8:13 p.m., the tail section suddenly pitches upward, the exact motion you'd expect when 200 pounds drops off the back of an aircraft. When Flight 305 lands in Reno at 11:02 p.m., FBI agents swarm the plane. But the cabin is empty. Cooper is gone. Into the freezing rain. Into the pitch-black wilderness. Into legend. The FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in American history. Helicopters. Search planes. Hundreds of soldiers from Fort Lewis. They scoured the presumed drop zone, a vast wilderness known as the Dark Divide, 25 miles north of Portland. They found nothing. No parachute, no money, no body, not a single trace of Dan Cooper. For 9 years, the case went cold. Then on February 10th, 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand along the Columbia River. What he found would reignite the mystery. 3 bundles of cash, $5,880 in decomposing $20 bills. The serial numbers match the ransom. But here's what made no sense. The river flows the wrong direction. The rubber bands holding the bills were too preserved. The money appeared to have been buried, not washed ashore. To this day, no one can explain how it got there. And the remaining $194,000 still missing. Cooper left almost nothing behind, just 8 cigarette butts, a mother-of-pearl tie clip, and 1 black clip-on tie from JCPenney. That tie would become the most analyzed piece of evidence in the case. In 2011, researchers discovered something extraordinary: microscopic particles of unalloyed titanium, cerium, and strontium sulfide embedded in the fabric. In 1971, these materials were used in only a handful of places: aircraft manufacturing facilities, Boeing's supersonic transport program, and cathode ray tube factories in Portland. Cooper wasn't just some desperate criminal. He was likely an engineer, maybe even a Boeing employee, someone who worked with aerospace technology, someone who knew exactly what he was doing. But the cigarette butts, the best chance at DNA evidence, destroyed. Lost while in FBI custody. Some say negligence. Others whisper something darker, a cover-up. Over 45 years, the FBI investigated more than 1,000 suspects. Richard McCoy, an expert military parachutist who pulled an almost identical hijacking just 5 months later. But the flight attendants said it wasn't him. Robert Rackstraw, a Vietnam veteran with extensive military training and ties to covert operations. He never admitted to being Cooper, but never denied it either. Kenneth Christensen, a former Northwest Orient purser and World War II paratrooper. He allegedly confessed to his brother on his deathbed. "There's something you should know, but I can't tell you." Each suspect fits some pieces of the puzzle. None fits them all. And that's the thing about D.B. Cooper. He might be any of them, or none of them. He could have died in those woods, or he could have walked away, lived a quiet life, and taken his secret to the grave. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case. No arrests, no answers. The only unsolved hijacking in commercial aviation history. But Cooper's legacy lives on. Metal detectors at airports. Cooper. Baggage screenings. Cooper. Those locks on airplane rear doors. They're literally called Cooper veins. He changed everything. And then he disappeared. Maybe he's out there right now, an old man who got away with the perfect crime. Maybe his bones are scattered somewhere in the Pacific Northwest wilderness, slowly becoming part of the forest floor. We'll probably never know. But here's what we do know. On a cold November night in 1971, a man proved that you could beat the system, that you could outsmart everyone, that you could simply vanish. And maybe that's why we can't let him go. Because D.B. Cooper isn't just a mystery. He's a ghost story we tell ourselves about the one who got away. The identity and fate of D.B. Cooper remain unknown to this day. The case file, 66 volumes spanning 45 years, is preserved at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. If you have information about this case, The FBI still accepts legitimate physical evidence related to the parachutes or the ransom money. The mystery continues.